Okay, here we are. Stand out with your Offer Masterclass. Welcome, welcome. Those are joining live and those are joining watching the recording. Good to have you. Um, yeah, a couple of small housekeeping things. So I encourage you to get something to write so you can jot down any notes, any kind of gems, any kind of big insights that come up. I highly encourage you to really fully focus on the masterclass while you're here. You're just gonna just get so much more from it than if you're like, distracted with your phone and 50 other tabs and so on. And in my experience, it's very helpful to engage when you learn. So for those of you who are here live, you can interact with me in the chat. I will monitor it. There's going to be a Q&A in the end for those who are here live. If you're watching the replay, I also encourage you to engage. So once this is in the Facebook group, you can engage in the comments. And if you're watching the recording on Zoom, then well, at least you can send me an email afterwards and let me know what you found most powerful. All right. So I'm going to share with you what we'll cover for the next, let's see, 45 to 60 minutes is my estimate. So I'll share with you who this masterclass is for, like who am I speaking to, so that you have a sense of like the context that I'm speaking to. Doesn't mean that you will be exactly this person, and that's completely fine, but it's important for me to kind of clarify that. And I'll share a little bit of my own background of who am I and why am I sharing this this material here. And then we'll go into the 5 common mistakes that I see entrepreneurs do when they create their offer. I'm going to look into how to position your offer so that you know it's going to sell to the right people. Then we're going to look into 5 common misconceptions about selling higher priced offers. So when I work with people, usually there is a sort of up leveling of the price of their offer because they're leveling up everything in their business. So it kind of makes sense. I will talk about, so the masterclass is called Stand Out with Your Offer, and what I'm sharing does apply to no matter what kind of offer you're creating. And when I work with people, I help them create so-called transformational offers. I will explain what that means. And so I will most often say okay, looks like I'm back. Internet crashed for a moment. Let me share my screen again. Boom. Here we are. Okay, so who am I speaking to in this masterclass? Again, it's completely fine if some of those things don't apply to you. You're still going to get a lot of value just from taking the stuff in and seeing what applies to you. And I find it really helpful to just be clear, who am I addressing most directly in this masterclass? So you're working with people one-on-one already. Can also be that you're working mostly in groups. You're good at what you're doing, so you're getting good results. You might not have a crazy amount of clients, but the clients that do come to you, they're really happy with what they're getting. So you're getting good feedback. And it's important for you to serve your clients in the best way possible, meaning, I mean, that can mean a lot of different things. In this context, one of the things that it means to me is that you probably prefer to work with people long term, just because you're seeing that it makes a huge difference whether someone is with you for just one session or if they're with you for a longer period of time, and you just love to see the transformation that's happening. So I guess what I'm trying to say with this is you're looking for how you can set up your business and your offers in a way that truly serve your clients, so that it's really not just about, what works for you and what creates the most profitable business, but also what actually helps my clients get the results that they're looking for. And the last thing is you're an action taker, which means when you take in information such as this masterclass, you're curious, how can I apply this? How can I actually do something with that? Rather than just being like, okay, well, that was interesting information, but I'm not going to do anything with it. Because no matter what I'm going to share with you over the next 45 minutes, if you don't change anything in your business, you're not going to see any different results. So I highly encourage you to take action. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It can also be just small tweaks. Can also, for a big part, be like an internal thing that you're changing. But I really encourage you to apply in some way what I'm sharing with you here. And yeah, just to paint a bit more of a precise picture, if you so want. So you know that your offer works. You know that when people come to you, if the right people come to you, you're getting really good results. Like your clients are really enjoying working with you. They may be even telling you like, wow, I'm so happy that I found you. But it's kind of hard for you to communicate exactly what is the value of what you're offering. And so one of the reasons for that can be that uh, part of your work is on levels that are kind of hard to describe. Like if you work a lot with energy and like with things that come up in the moment, or if you're doing work that is kind of pioneering work, like it's not like, oh, I did this uh, 3-year training and now I'm doing exactly what I learned, but you're kind of always on the edge, kind of maybe bringing together different approaches in a completely new way. And so it can be really hard when you're in this field to communicate very precisely, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what makes me different from other people. This is what you will get from working with me, because because it's just levels that are kind of hard to put into words. And the last thing is you really enjoy helping clients long term. So you love to see the transformation that happens when someone stays with you, stays in your field for, say, 3 months or 6 months or whatever it is. Um, and you just get to see the transformation over time. Again, I'm not saying that you're not interested at all in doing one-on-one, like individual sessions. I sometimes do that, but there is something magical in my experience of like being with someone for a while and then just seeing what can happen if someone really stays consistent and gets the right kind of support over time. So if that's somewhat familiar to you, then welcome to the club and you're in a really good place. I'm happy you found your way into this masterclass and into my world. So let me share a bit about me, my background. So I used to work as a men's purpose and embodiment coach for about 5 years. One of the things that I did as like part of me stepping into the online world was launching an online summit in 2018. I actually just on Facebook got a reminder today that I did a crowdfunding campaign to actually make the online summit happen. And so this was today, 6 years ago. I think yeah. I went live with the crowdfunding for this online summit. So I did this online summit. It was called the Evolving Men Summit. I got like a couple of thousand people that came into my audience, had some really cool conversations with some pretty big names, both in men's work and outside. Like for those of you who are here, I think some of you will know Thomas Hubers. So I had the pleasure of talking to him, for example, and some other really cool people. And just to give you like a bit of an insight of what my business understanding was back then. So in 2018, I started offering coaching, and I was working with a coach back then, and I told him like, wow, it's so cool. Like I have, I think 2 or 3 thousand people somewhere in this range of people in my email list. So I'm just gonna send out an email saying like, hey, I'm offering coaching now. And I'm gonna get so many clients because there's 2,000 people in there. So, a lot of people will want that. And he was like, yeah, that's probably not going to work. And I was like, what do you mean? So it took me some time to understand that it's helpful to have a good offer. And he helped me with some of that. Although I will show you in the next slide where I was at with his support. Um, so I didn't really know what I was selling, besides calling it coaching. I had no clear sense of who my ideal client was, and I definitely didn't have a clear offer. So with that coach that I was working with back then, I created a container. It was like a 6-month container for 1,875 euros with 12 sessions. But that for me, that doesn't mean that's a clear offer. That just describes like, okay, what is included. And so this is like one of the first things that I wrote down of like who I'm working with and what I do for them. So I said I help empathic clients live, create, and manifest abundance from their intuitive and tuned core. I guide them through limiting beliefs, emotional blockages, and the challenges that come with manifesting dreams. So um, it's a start. It's at least it's not I help everyone, but it's very unprecise, and it's gonna be, and it was very hard to enroll anyone in this because it's very vague. So people would have no idea what does that actually mean, whether that helps them or not. Does it apply to their challenges? Um, and at that time, I was going pretty hard on making sales. So like connecting to a lot of people and proposing to work together. And I did have results, which for me is a sign or an expression of or an indicator rather, that if you take massive action, even if things are not super clear, you're gonna have some results. And it's way, 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 way more effective to have a clear strategy. And most likely it's going to take less effort from your end to get more results. So that's just a bit of my background of how I started. Um, so then I was working as a men's coach, and I noticed that embodiment work, like helping people arrive in their body, becoming more self-regulated, grounded. That work is really important. But I also realized it's actually not my deepest calling. It was more like I saw the need for embodiment work. And I was like, I want to be around more people who are embodied. But I also noticed that I actually feel more excited about the strategic work. And so over time, more and more people came to me who were self-employed. And so we started working on their businesses as well. And so I kind of slowly transitioned to what I'm doing now, which is somatic business coaching. And over the past couple of years, I've done a bunch of different trainings around business and marketing. Like I've worked with Seth Godin. Some of you might know him. He's a very famous marketing guru. I did a business training with some people from the US that usually cost $40,000. I got in a bit cheaper because I wouldn't have been able to afford that. But those are some of the things that gave me like a really powerful foundation, and also helped me solidify some of the things that I had learned by myself, with just being self-employed and being surrounded by a lot of self-employed people, and just giving me some like high-level principles that I could then apply to my own business, but also share with my clients. And so for the past 2 years, approximately, I've been focusing for the biggest part to business coaching, with like this background of like everything that I do uh, is embodied, meaning I try to um, or I mean, that's the feedback that I get is like I bring a certain quality of embodiment to what I do, meaning that I don't just talk from my head, but I'm speaking from experience. And so for people who are also in the embodiment field, it usually feels kind of relieving to be like, oh, I don't have to talk about strategy in a way that completely disconnects me from my body. And so over these past 5 years, I've tried many different things around creating an online business. Um, I would say most things that I tried, I did like using webinars, creating mini workshops, all sorts of different offers like a membership, group coaching programs. Like I've tried very, not everything, but a lot of things that exist. And I always had some results. And what I'm sharing with you in this masterclass and also what I'm sharing with my clients is like the culmination of the stuff that really works in my experience, especially if you have an embodiment background, if that stuff is important to you. And one last thing that I want you to know about me is I was not made for a 9 to 5 job, neither in terms of like having a boss, but also not the work hours. Like I've tried once in my life to work for 40 hours a week and it just didn't work. Like that's just not how my system is set up. So these days I work somewhere in between 15 to 25 hours per week. It varies a lot, but it's really important for me to have a spacious life and that running my business is something that I do in a nervous system friendly way that feels sustainable, that feels fun, where I can take time off if that feels important to me, where I have this kind of flexibility. So that's a little bit about me. Um, I briefly want to share what makes me stand out now, since this is like a stand out with your offer masterclass. So I can share with you like what works for me. So one thing is that I combine embodiment with clear strategies. Again, I don't teach embodiment, but it's like part of what I share, or it's kind of like from the place that I'm sharing from. Uh, and super clear practical strategies. So I'm really not a fan of like manifesting abundance and being like, oh, if you believe something strong enough, it's going to happen. No, it's like there are very clear practical things that we can do to move forward with our business. We can do all the energetic stuff as well, but without those clear practices and principles and strategies, I feel like it can become like a real mind fuck. I'm also a really, really big advocate of marketing that is not pushy. So if you've been in my audience, you might have seen like I'm very present and I engage a lot with people and I love to invite people into things. But from the feedback that I've gotten and from my experience, I do it in a way that doesn't feel pushy. Like I don't try to sell you something that is not of value to you because why should I? Like it's not going to help you and it's not going to help me in the long run. So, and it's actually one of the things that like I feel most passionate about is to help people find a way of doing marketing that doesn't feel pushy because a lot of stuff, the stuff that's out there feels kind of off. But that doesn't mean that you kind of have to disregard any kind of marketing and just hope that people find what you're doing in some way. I also really stand for doing business in a nervous system friendly way. I already said that. I also have a very clear niche of who I'm serving. And so that's entrepreneurs who have a very clear spiritual background, who care about embodiment in all of their, in their whole life, which includes their business. And yeah, I help them grow their business. And one of the ways that I do is that I help entrepreneurs create so-called transformational offers. I'm going to explain a bit later what that is, but just in the short form, it's a kind of larger container that you create for your clients that focuses on the transformation that your client can achieve rather than like the amount of time you spend together. Like you don't say, oh, I have this 6 session package that I'm selling, but I have like this transformational offer that helps you go from here to here and so on and so forth. We're going to talk about this in a couple of minutes. Um, I want to give you one example of someone I helped create an offer that helped. Justina is her name. She's a kinky spiritual embodiment coach. So she combines like embodiment with kink. And I helped her launch an offer that was called Sacred Morning Practice, where she helped people, women actually, develop a morning routine that helped them connect to the divine as like the first thing they do in the morning. I did a conversation with her about it. If you want to find it, it's in the Spiritual Entrepreneurs Hub. It's interesting to listen to her because uh, she was like, no one's gonna buy this. And I was like, yeah, I think like the offer is super clear. So I'm pretty sure people are gonna buy it. And so she got 3 beta testers. The price for the beta round was 500 euros. Within Actually, I think it was 2 days. So she sent out like one email to her list and like one message to like a WhatsApp group she had, and she already had like her 3 spots filled. And she was so excited about it. And just to give you 2 other examples, Arati is a former client of mine, and he used to only offer group stuff. So like men's work things, men's circles, longer workshops, and I helped him step into offering one-on-one work, which was kind of connected to like helping people like connect more to self-love and develop more agency from that place, so like taking responsibility for their lives. He also sold his 3 beta spots like within 2 weeks, I think. And then Florin is a physiotherapist. He's still a client of mine. And we developed together an offer of his that was around pain relief. So helping people be able to do the sport again that they love without experiencing pain. That was like for 1,800 euros, I think. And so far he sold 2 of those. And yeah, he before that he used to charge like 50 hours per session. So it was like a huge step up for him. So those are just some examples of what it can look like to stand out with your offer, have a clear offer and be able to sell it more easily than if you were to say, oh, I offer, one-on-one session or something like that. Alrighty, let's get started with the meat of the masterclass. So let's look into the 5 most common mistakes that I see and that I've probably all like I've done all of them for sure when it comes to creating your offer. And then as a next step, we're going to look into how you can avoid them. So the first thing that I see out there is that you describe the kind of work that you do and you talk about all the different benefits that someone can experience when working with you. And it becomes incredibly vague. Like if you say, oh, I do therapy, and if you do therapy with me, you can uh, improve your mental health, improve your sleep, improve your relationships, and create a deeper connection to God, whatever. It says everything and nothing. Like no one is going to feel like, wow, this person is speaking to me right now. They're just going to feel like, okay, you're just saying everything possible. And if you say everything, that means you're saying nothing. And I actually today in the morning, I was thinking about something that I felt like I wanted to share, which is I feel like it can be really scary to be specific in your business. It can be really scary to say, I'm offering this and not this. I'm here to work with this kind of audience and not this kind of audience. Like there's something in there that is more vulnerable than if you say like, oh, like you can come to me with everything and and all these benefits are there. Like there's something in being vague that I feel like feels safer than if you put yourself out there and you're saying like, hey, I'm not here for everyone. And you're not going to experience all of these things, or at least there is a certain hierarchy of things. Like this is the main focus of what I work with. And I'm gonna talk later about how I sometimes work with people who are looking for something that I'm not talking about in my online presence, but I can still help them. So when you become specific with what you're offering, it doesn't mean that everyone else is excluded. It just means you're very precise with who you're calling in primarily. So that's about being too broad about the benefits of what you're offering. The next thing is kind of defining yourself primarily through the method that you're using. So you're saying, oh, I'm a psychotherapist using this particular method, or oh, I'm an Ayurveda practitioner, or I'm a uh, trainer, movement educator, working in the lineage of one particular famous person. So um, it's helpful at some point that you communicate the method that you're using, but in most cases, we do that way too much. And the issue with that is that um, the moment you're saying, oh, I'm a Feldenkrais practitioner, and you leave it at that, you're instantly in competition with every other Feldenkrais practitioner out there. And there's nothing that sets you apart from the other people. So while we do want to, in the right moments, communicate the kind of methods that we're using, because we want our clients to be on board with the methods that we're using, we really don't want this to be the main focus of what we're communicating. The next thing is not qualifying your audience. And what qualifying means in this instance is you're not. So basically, what I did in the beginning of this masterclass, like, who is this for? What I did was I was qualifying you. I was saying, like, hey, you have this prior experience already. You're in this stage in your business. You're maybe thinking this or that thing. You already have some experience with embodiment. And what that does is it sets a certain bar of, like, who am I talking to? And the people who meet those requirements, they will be much more curious because they will feel like, oh, now he's talking to me. He's not talking to everyone. He's not saying, oh, what I'm doing is the right thing for absolutely everyone. Now he's talking about, oh, this offer is for you if you've already done this, this, and this. So qualifying your audience makes them feel seen in where they're at. And if we don't do that, no one is going to feel really spoken to. So qualifying audience, super important. Next mistake is not communicating a clear outcome of what it is that you're offering. So what I see a lot of people do when they describe their offer is that they go a lot into what's going to happen when we work together. So it's like, oh, I open this kind of space for you. Like, I open a very warm and loving space for you, and we together curiously look what arises in the space. These kind of things. If there is no clear outcome communicated, the person will not be on board and they will not really be interested how the process looks like. Because ultimately, what we do as entrepreneurs is we solve problems. Like, we help people go from where they are to where they want to be. And so if we don't communicate this where they want to be, and we kind of say, like, hey, I can help you get there, then talking about like how I help you move along, it's not going to be relevant because you haven't said where you're going. So this is really important. Like, what's the outcome? What can I expect from working with you? And then the last thing is I work with a lot of people who are very creative and who love, like, expressing themselves also in a kind of artistic way. And I sometimes see that when people create their offers, that they look at it as if it was a piece of art. So, like, the way they talk, it's like, there's a lot of metaphors and maybe things rhyme or stuff like this, which is beautiful and it absolutely has its place. But very often it comes at the expense of being able to communicate very clearly what it is that you're actually offering. So if you focus too much on this artful expression, it can come at the expense of people actually getting what is it that you're trying to communicate? What is it that you're actually offering? And it's something that I work on with clients is to see, like, where is it really important and helpful to become very strategic in how you talk about things, and when is it completely fine to, like, fully be in your artful expression. So just to give you an example, like, I sometimes share sort of poems, I guess, or texts that I write on Facebook, and I love it, and I often get really beautiful feedback. So I'm really not against this kind of stuff, But when it comes to communicating your offer and making sure that it's well positioned and it comes across, then this kind of art, this kind of like focusing too much on self-expression, on how you look at it and how it feels in you, can get in the way of actually bringing across what this is about. Gonna take a sip of water. If anyone who's live here wants to share in the chat what's coming up for you, there's something that resonates especially or a question, feel free to. All right, I'm gonna move on. If you're typing, please feel free to finish typing and I'll get to your comment or question when the time is right. Cool. Let's next go to how you can position your offer in a way that it stands out. So one of the things that I guide my clients through is becoming very clear on which market you're in, and kind of like what is the niche within this market that you're serving. And this is something that I've learned from Russell Brunson, who's a very famous marketer. He created ClickFunnels. Some of you might know that. And he talks about the three core markets, health, wealth, and relationships, that regardless of like economic circumstances, regardless of what's going on in the world, like the craziness that we're experiencing right now, people will always look for something in these three areas. So basically, it's saying that if you're well positioned in one of these markets and like in a subcategory of one of these markets, there's always going to be a demand for it. And if you look at like really successful offers, they tend to be very clearly positioned in one of those. Now, it can of course be that as part of your offer, you're serving more than just one of those three. If that's the case, it's really helpful to still be very clear, like what is the main one that you're serving. So we have those three core markets, and then within those we have subcategories that we can go into. So we don't say, oh, I help you with relationships. That's that's not very clearly defined, but it can be like, hey, I help you experience more polarity with your partner, or I help you become more loving and clear with your children, or I help you find your dream partner. Just to give you a couple of examples from relationships. Wealth. So what I do would be in the wealth section, because I help spiritual entrepreneurs grow their business by selling a transformational offer rather than just one-on-one sessions. Could also be something like I help you invest into crypto, or I help you like go into the real estate market, like tell you how to buy and sell houses. And then we have the health section, which would be like, I help you alleviating allergy symptoms. I help you lose weight, or I help you sleep better. And so the first thing that you want to look at is which of those core markets is your offer in. And if you're not clear about that, to first really decide, okay, which one is going to be the main focus? Because if in your offer you communicate, this brings me back to what I said before, like the benefits on all different levels. Like if you say like, oh, if you work with me, like your relationship to your children will be better and you will sleep better, and over time your income will increase. You're saying everything at once, and with that, nothing. So super helpful to kind of decide on one of those three core markets. There's a lot more obviously to say about this. I'm going to keep it for the sake of this masterclass not too long, because there's some other stuff I also want to go through. If you have some specific questions about this, you can also let me know in the Q&A in the end. All right, so a couple of other things that are really important so that your offer really stands out. So one thing is you want to make sure that what you're offering is the solution to something that people are actually looking to get help for. Um, so this is one of the downsides. If you just kind of follow your excitement of what you want to create, it could be that at some point you realize, well, people are just not willing to pay for that. Like something that feels super alive and fun for you, um, but there's just not a market for that. So if that's the case, then that's probably a great hobby for you to have, but probably not a good business. So we want to make sure that what we're offering actually addresses a challenge that people have, and we want this to be validated, which means we don't just want to go by our own intuition of like what we think people want, but we actually like want kind of proof that yeah, this is what people are looking for. This is one of the things that we do when I work with people around market research, where you actually have conversations with from your target audience, from like your ideal clients, so that you start understanding how do they actually think about their stuff? What is the challenge that they're seeing? Because it might be that the way that you're looking at things, you're seeing challenges that they're not seeing. So then when you communicate from your perspective, but they're in a completely different place, there's going to be a mismatch. So when I say validated, I mean you've actually spoken to people and you've heard them describe this. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can do this. Like one is you just start paying attention to how your clients speak. How do they talk about their problems? And just start writing these things down. Also, if you post stuff on social media or you exchange messages with people from your audience, just become really curious, like, how do they describe where they are at? I think the most powerful way to validate it is to have actual interviews with people from your audience. But again, there are smaller ways that you can start doing that already and kind of just start becoming a bit more curious of like, huh, how does my ideal client actually talk about their challenge? Okay, next thing is I've covered this a bit already. So we want to make sure that when we communicate the offer, that we start with what is the transformation that someone wants to experience. So what is the outcome that they're looking to experience versus what is the process that you're going to take them through? Because if they are not on board with where you want to take them, then the process is going to be irrelevant. So, and that brings me to the next, which is like connecting to what is the underlying desire that actually drives this person. That actually, if you can speak to that and if you can show that you're going to help them have this desire fulfilled, well, then it's going to make sense for them to invest in working with you. Whereas if you talk a lot about the process, the kind of space that you're opening up and the amount of sessions that you're offering and the tools that you're bringing in, you're only going to get the people who already trust you a lot. So who are like, okay, I don't really care what David says because I love what he's talking about and I deeply trust him. So I'm just going to buy his offer even if I don't get it. You will have those people, but with what I'm sharing with you here, I want you to be able to reach like a bit of a broader audience, let's say. Qualified audience, I've spoken to that before. So this is about acknowledging what does your ideal client, the one that you want to call in with this offer, what do they already understand? What have they already experienced? What have they already accomplished? What do they see that maybe most other people don't see? And what that does is it makes people feel seen. And when we feel seen, we're much more curious and open. Oh, he's talking to me right now. Now I'm interested. And the last thing, well, actually, we have a couple of more things that I'll share with you, but this kind of comes back to the validation process. So over time, you want to use more and more the language of your ideal client, meaning it's one thing how you talk about your offer, And it might be a completely different thing how your ideal client talks about your offer and thinks about your offer, thinks about their own challenges. And the more that you're able to use the language that your ideal client uses, uh, the more you're able to actually bridge the gap, the more you're actually able to bring across, like, hey, you're here, and this is what you're thinking about, and this is what you've tried before. So this is also a good one when you want to qualify the audience. What have they tried before? What have they invested money in? Have they worked with other people in your field already? Why didn't it work? Like, for example, hey, you want to feel more safe and grounded in your body, and you've tried therapy, you've tried talk therapy, and you just notice, like, yeah, it doesn't help. Like, I just keep on talking about my problems, but it doesn't change. So if you can address like how they think about it and their frustration and so on, then you can tell them, well, the reason why this didn't work is it didn't include body awareness. And body awareness is the thing, blah, blah, blah. And then you kind of transition to the offer that you have. So use the language of your ideal client. The more that you do that, the less friction there will be when people look at your offer. Because whenever you use words that make sense to you but not to your ideal client, they will be like, huh, I don't fully follow. And so the more of those that you have in there, the more you will lose people when they read through your offer. So we want to make sure that over time we use more and more of the language of our ideal client. And then there are a couple of more things, and that's already a bit more of like how you structure it, or like how you communicate what is part of the offer, I would say. One is that it's a clearly defined journey, meaning you're acknowledging the starting point for your ideal client and the end point. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'm going to talk to this in a couple slides as well, because that's like a common objection or like a worry that I have when I talk to people about what I do and how I help my clients, is that they say, yeah, but the work that I do is like very emergent. Like I don't have like this super clear structure. So we'll get to that. Let's just say it's very helpful if you have a starting point with your offer, if you're acknowledging the pre-experiences that someone is bringing, and you're clearly communicating towards what you're guiding people. And then the next thing is that you have some sort of milestones that that kind of make it a bit more clear what are like what's happening in the journey from A to B. Because it's one thing to say, okay, you're here, you want to be here, cool, I can do that, I'll bring you there. And they'll be like, but how? And so the milestones are one way that we can communicate the how. So for example, when I work with people and I tell them, look, I help you create a transformational offer and level up your business, level up your income, I could say, okay, cool. So we're going to start with some kind of more inner foundation stuff. I'm going to share with you the mindset. I'm going to talk about buyer psychology. I'm going to share with you meditation of how you can connect to your ideal client. That's milestone number one, is like the inner foundation. The next thing is going to be about creating a first draft of your transformational offer. We're going to clearly define like your niche, what market you're in, who you're speaking to, what the structure is of your offer, this kind of stuff. And then the next thing is I'm going to help you sell this transformational offer. I'm going to share with you a launch strategy of like how you can share it with your audience so that it creates excitement. And then I'm going to transition with you towards long-term strategies of how you can sell it. So those would be some milestones. The next thing is that you have a clear promise of what people can expect from working with you. And again, I know that for some of you that might be like, well, I can't promise anything because, you know, every person's different and every journey looks different. I totally get that. And I like to share this example that I had with a client of mine last year. We worked on the topic of people pleasing, and it was a higher priced offer. It was, I think, 2,000 euros for 4 months of working together. And we talked about, well, what can he expect from working with me? And I told him, look, you have this challenge that you're experiencing. What I can promise you, what you're going to experience is when this pattern of people pleasing comes up, you're going to experience a lot more space around it. You're not going to feel like you're just blindly following a pattern. And it's not going to work in every situation, but more often than not, you're going to experience that you still can choose not to fall into people pleasing. And so, when it comes to inner work, of course, we cannot be like super crazy precise, but this was more than enough for him, and it like totally exceeded his expectations. So this absolutely worked. So having a promise, very helpful, very important. Do not overpromise. So we don't want to pull people in by, promising them heaven on earth, because they're going to be disappointed, and it's going to hurt your business in the long run. And then one last thing I want to share on this topic of positioning your offer and communicating it is, I've said this already in other words, but I find it really important, is you want to sell the outcome and not the journey. So what people really want is a certain transformation, is going from where they are to bring something new in their lives, whether it's having better relationships, being more loving with themselves, being more athletic, being able to do more sports, or increasing their income, whatever it is. Like there's something that drives them that they're like, I would love that. And so if you can speak to that, and if you can sell that, they will be much more likely to join you than if you talk only about the journey of like, oh, and we're going to use these tools and this amount of session, this kind of stuff. Okay. We're coming to the end. See how we're doing time-wise. Oh, it looks okay. So there are a couple of misconceptions when it comes to selling transformational offers. Now, I notice I haven't fully explained yet what a transformational offer is, so let me do that. So a transformational offer is, I mean, it's pretty much what the culmination of everything that I've shared with you until now. So a transformational offer is an offer that focuses on the transformation that your client is looking to experience. So it puts at the center the whatever your client wants to reach. And then once that's established, then we say, okay, and this is what's included within that offer. But so the main focus of a transformation offer is the transformation of your client. And I have a whole masterclass called Step Away from Hourly Rates, Create a Transformational Offer Your Clients Will Love. I go into more depth into these topics. You can find that in the Spiritual Entrepreneurs Hub as well. But just to say, in my experience, it's so much easier to sell transformational offers because also at a higher price, because if people feel really heard in where they're at, and they feel like you can actually help them accomplish what they want to accomplish, they're much more inclined to work with you and also be willing to invest a higher amount than if you just say, oh, let's do 6 sessions together. If you do that, they're probably going to be like, oh, okay, David's session price is 100, whatever, 200 euros per session. That's kind of expensive. Maybe I should be looking for someone else. So the focus shifts a lot. With transformational offers, the focus is on, hey, there's something that you want to accomplish. And if you're the right person, I can help you do that, which is very different from, oh, we can work on these 12 topics and we can do a couple of sessions on that. So that's in short what a transformational offer is. There are a couple of misconceptions that I've heard very often when talking to people about this. One is, does this work in my niche? So short answer is probably yes. I've worked with people who are therapists. I've worked with people who work on relationship stuff. So let's see, who did I work with in relationship stuff? So what I did a lot was working with people who are offering things around being in relationship with yourself. Oh, I was working with someone on the topic of boundaries. So developing clear boundaries without becoming an asshole. I've worked with a lot of people in terms of relationship to yourself, like becoming more loving. I've worked with a lot of people in the health part, different things, the morning practice that I talked about previously. And occasionally I work with people who are in the wealth section. but I would say my main focus is working with people who are helping their clients with something regarding their health or their relationships. And so far, my experience is yes, it has worked in all of those niches. If you have a particular question to your niche, like who you're serving, let me know. we can I can give you more precise feedback. But the short answer on this is yes, it absolutely most likely also works in your niche. The second thing is, well, transformational offers at a high price, that sounds super nice, but the kind of people that are in my audience, they cannot afford this. And I had this thought myself a lot when I was working as a men's coach. I used to offer like quite a big sliding scale, um, which, depending on what you do, can work really well. And I was really worried that if I go up with my prices and move also more towards business coaching, that um, you know, I would just actually generate less money because my audience wouldn't be able to afford it. So it's not been my experience. It's been my experience that the more clear the offer is, the more people are actually willing to pay higher prices, and they also become more creative. Like if they see that what you're offering is like is you're helping them remove their bottleneck, like the one thing in their lives that is like the most annoying right now, they most want to change. People can get very creative in like getting together the money, like borrowing money or getting a side job to generate that money. Like there are a lot of ways that if someone feels like, whoa, this could really help me, that they can actually afford it. So I would very much challenge that idea. And also, this is about becoming a match for your ideal client. So yeah, it could be that some people in your audience will not be able to afford it. And then I would like ask you to check, is that an ideal client? Yes or no? If it is an ideal client, maybe you can find a way of working together anyway. But I wouldn't like keep your prices low because you're worried that someone might not be able to afford it. Like that's a lot of mindfuck. Just charge what feels right for you. If someone feels really called to work with you and can't afford it, you can still get creative. And I've done that myself so many times. Like I've worked with someone who I couldn't afford. I told them what my, situation was, and most of the time I actually found a way to work with them. Then the next thing is like, oh, but I don't want to only work with people who can afford these really high prices. That would make my business really exclusive and it would feel, kind of elitist, whatever. Um, and what I would say to that is when you set up a transformational offer at a higher price effectively, um, you can think about your business and the different offers that you have, like a pyramid, and you've created the top. And in this example, it's actually my experience that it makes sense to start with that because there's a small percentage in your audience that is looking exactly for this offer, for this higher priced offer. And if you create it and you sell it, you're probably good business wise. From that place, you can start creating lower priced offers that are more accessible or free offers, like I'm doing right now, with a lot less stress. So, no, in my experience, it doesn't make your business overly exclusive. It creates an offer to people who are willing to invest higher amounts. And it puts you in a position of, financial ease so that you can serve other parts of your audience without being really stressed of like, oh, I have this offer, it's 27 euros. I basically have to sell like 50 of that to kind of make any money of that. No, you can relax that. So in a way, I find it makes it actually like easier to work with people at a lower price as well. And then the next thing is, oh, I don't want to become too specific. Like I love working on all these different things, and I want my business to be a full expression of who I am with all the different things that matter to me and the different offers. And so I totally get this. Pretty much all of my clients are like this, like they, passionate about many things. And really, for me, the thing with a transformational offer is that we want to provide a very clear entry point into your world and make it easy for people to understand what you help them with. Once they're in your world, you can become more broad because they've invested in you, they trust you. So if you then explain to them, hey, this thing that we're working on, this is like one part of this big universe of other things. And and this other offer makes sense for these reasons. So just because you have an offer that's like clearly positioned doesn't mean that you don't do all the other things. It just means that you provide a very clear entry point. And over time, you can actually create more different entry points. You can say like, hey, you have this challenge with your children. Cool, I have this offer. And then if this is like established, you can move to the next one. But what doesn't work, even though we all want that, is like we want to do all at once. Like we want to share everything at once. And what that does is just it confuses your audience because you talk to so many different things at the same time that again, no one feels really spoken to. So uh, in the long run, creating a well-positioned transformational offer will actually enable you to like have all the different offers that are important to you. So it actually helps you become more broad, but we need those clear entry points. Otherwise, people will not understand what we're doing, what we're offering, and they will just be off. And then the last thing, and I've spoken to that briefly before, this is also most of the people that I work with say like, hey, I'm very dedicated to working with what's arising in this present moment, which means my work doesn't have a clear structure. So I cannot create an offer that says like, oh, we're going from A to B and these are the different things, because that's not how that's not how I work. So I really get that, and I struggled with that for some time. And I mean, even now when I work with people, yeah, every journey looks different. There's not like the one template that everyone follows, but we can still have a template and say, hey, these are usually the things that we're going to work on. So let's use the example of like I help you communicate your boundaries in a loving way. We can say, okay, so uh, the first thing that we're probably going to focus on is notice, like having a felt sense of your own boundaries, right? So we want to start with that, like where is my boundary? And then we can go to, well, how to communicate that boundary in a way that doesn't feel dismissive to the other person. Now, for each client, the journey around how to set boundaries will look different. And that's completely fine. You can also say that, like, hey, I'm really dedicated to making sure that the work that I do uh, really fits each client that I work with. So it's going to look a bit differently. But here's the general structure, right? So just because your work is quite emergent doesn't mean that there's no structure. It just means that there is flexibility with how the structure shows up with each specific client. And you can totally communicate that and still provide that structure that helps people feel more trust in the process. Because again, if you just say, okay, you're here and you want to go here, like in my example, like, hey, you want to generate 5,000 euros per month consistently. You're right now somewhere between 2 and 4. Cool. I'm going to help you. People are going to be like, well, what do you mean? Like, well, what is it that we're going to do? How are you going to help me? Well, then I can say, okay, well, these are the steps that we're going to take. Might look a bit different for you depending on where you are. So that's the idea. Just because your work is emergent does not mean that it doesn't have any structure. Okay. You can always adapt it to each client. All right. That was a mouthful. I hope you're getting some good insights from what I'm sharing. If there's something that you want to bring into the chat, feel free to do so. Um, I'm gonna wrap the masterclass up by sharing how I can help you further if you're looking for more support than this masterclass. So I'm super excited about this. I said in the beginning of the call, I'm sharing an offer that has not gone public yet, so you're the first ones to hear about it. For those that know my work already a little bit, my signature offer is called Elevate Your Business, and that's where I help people move to 3 to 5,000 euros consistently in their business by creating and consistently selling a transformational offer. However, based on the feedback that I've received, I've decided to offer a shorter group program. So Elevate is a mix of one-on-one and group, and it's long term. It's like either 5 or 12 months. And so some people are just not ready to work with me for that long, which I get. And so the Create and Sell Your Transformational Offer program, it's a 7-week program. I'm going to go into the details in the next slide. I'm just first going to qualify the audience to go a little bit meta. So who this is really going to help is if you're working with clients already, getting great results. Uh, a lot of people that are coming to you are coming through referrals, some kind of recommendation. Um, You've tried some promo strategies before, maybe going to a lot of local events or being on social media, having an email list, and you've had some results, but it hasn't been like sustainable for it. So like something that you could do consistently, know what you need to do to bring in new clients. You're also really dedicated to creating offers that really serve your clients in the best way possible. You are really clear that you're not interested in burning out, like working full on something and then having to rest for 2 months because it was way too much. Like you want to find a way to move forward in a way that feels sustainable. And you're looking for clear strategies. So you're not interested in someone telling you like, oh, you just need to believe in yourself and create a vision board and manifest abundance. Like you're looking for what are actual practical things that you can do to grow your business. And so this is what we're going to do in the Create and Sell Your Transformational Offer program. It's a 7-week online group training. It's starting in about a month. I'm going to send you the link in a second so you can look at the page, but I think July 17th is when we're starting. We have 8 calls. 5 of them is where I share different input, different strategies, so things that you're going to work on for the time after the call. And 3 of them are Q&A calls where you can bring any of the questions, any places where you're stuck, anything where you're unclear, you can bring them to the Q&A calls. There's going to be every week for those 7 weeks, you're going to have an opportunity to ask like the most burning question that you have in this process that you would love to have support on. And we're going to have a client community of everyone who's in this offer of Create and Sell Your Transformational Offer, which can be really cool to give each other feedback, support each other, feel encouraged by others taking action. So you take action as well. And here are some of the milestones, as I described them before, that we are going to look into. So the first is more like the inner foundation. So I'm gonna guide you through a sort of initiation process into your next level business growth, because in my experience, and I mean it's kind of self-evident, but if you look to grow in one area of your life, it requires growth on all other areas as well. And so if you want to charge higher prices, create a bigger offer, it requires you to step up as well. And so we're going to do a little initiation there to kind of make sure that this inner part is in place. I'm going to share with you quite a lot of things around mindset of how to look at creating such offers, about the buyer psychology, like what do people think, maybe even subconsciously before making a decision to invest in a higher priced offer. And I'm also going to guide you through a process of how you can connect to your ideal client. And that way you will always, like when you create content, when you create your offer, you know who you're speaking to, which can be really, really helpful. And so once we have that inner foundation, that is just the first week. It's just, yeah, to set a kind of foundation so that we then can go into the more strategic, practical stuff. The next thing we do is your transformational offer. We're going to pick your niche, define your positioning, your ideal, like your target audience, who you're speaking to. And when I say ideal client or target audience, I don't mean like, oh, this person is 42 years old and has a dog and likes to go hiking on Saturdays. Like there's which some people do in marketing, which to me really doesn't resonate. Like we more want to look for certain qualities. And like the demographics are not as important as the psychographics. Like, what does this person really love? What are they passionate about? What are they really looking to create? This kind of stuff. We're going to help you structure your offer. I'm going to guide you through a process of how you can validate that offer in the market. So this is going to happen through market research interviews where you talk to people in your audience, so you can actually phrase the offer around how they think about their own challenges, rather than just like what you intuitively think they might want to hear. We're going to also help you price your transformational offer in a way that feels good. In most cases, it means going up with your prices, but obviously I'm not looking to push you in any direction, but just from my experience, when people work with me, it does mean increasing their prices. And then the last step that we go through is we actually start selling that transformational offer that you first created a draft and then validated in the market. I'm going to share with you the most effective strategies for doing a launch. So like activating the people in your audience that are ready to buy from you. What I like to do is to offer a couple of spots at a bit of a reduced price for beta testers, where you communicate clearly like, hey, I created this offer and I'm looking for some beta testers. What the cool thing about this is it takes the pressure off of you that it has to be perfect, and the client knows. And so they will be happy that they're coming in at a lower price. They may be able to give you feedback. You're going to get feedback quickly so you can adapt the offer and then go out even further. So that's something that I encourage most people to do. And then I also help you set up your first organic funnel. This masterclass is one way of creating such a funnel. So creating some kind of free offer that draws in people who have been kind of following you, but who would not be ready to straight away say, hey, I want to work with you. So to create some resource that you can continually people send towards, where then a certain percentage will be interested in working with you in this offer. So that's the Create and Sell Your Transformational Offer Group program. There are two options of how you can join this. One is CST Gold, which is everything that I just described. So here we have the 5 input live calls, 3 Q&A calls, question box, the client community. And the investment for this is 1,200 euros, or 2 times 660. And the second option is CST Diamond, which is limited to the first 3 people who want to do this. And what that includes, besides everything of CST Gold, is we have a weekly personal voice chat, like with me personally, where we check in, where you can ask any questions. We have 3 additional one-on-one calls during the program. And you get access to the Business Momentum Builder course, which is super cool online training that I created that currently sells for 375 euros around creating healthy business structures, simple things you can do in your day-to-day life to make sure that you move forward and you focus on the most important business tasks. And so the investment for that is 1,800 euros, or 3 times 660. And there's a very special launch bonus for the first 3 people who join. They get an additional one-on-one call with me. So that's for either of those options. The first 3 that join get a one-on-one call in addition to everything that's offered. So that's the Create and Sell Your Transformational Offer Group program. Again, we're starting July 17th, so in pretty much 4 weeks. I'm going to put the link to the page with all the information and the dates and so on in the chat, so you can take a look. And yeah, this marks the end of the masterclass. Thank you so much for sticking with me for 70 minutes. I hope you some gems with you. I'm going to open the space now for Q&A. So if there's anything that you want to ask, you can just unmute yourself, and I'll be here for another say a maximum of 15 minutes, depending on the questions that come in. And yeah, wishing you all the best. Handan says, thank you so much, David. You're very welcome. I'm glad you joined. Hope you took some good stuff with you. I'm just going to pause the screen share for a moment. Continue. Yay, Sophia, you're welcome. Thank you for joining. Just shared the doc for the Create and Sell Your Transformational Offer program. If you want to take a look, feel free to. Well, looks like there are no questions. That must have been an amazing masterclass. Oh, maybe
Okay, I
Sophia?
have a question. I'm a little bit shy, but I will try. And my internet is not so fluid, but I hope you can hear me. You hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So my question is, like I have some like transformational offers already, for clients that that I also know already very good. Like I know who's my ideal client, but I want to like have another like direction or bubble or positioning. I want to have another
Yes.
positioning for another bubble because I so far I have very like a special bubble of clients and I love them and I want to work with them further, but I also I kind of like want to make a Robin Hood move. I think you already said something in this direction. I want to work also with people out of this more alternative bubble and also take more money and make some offers that are very good for them. But
Yes.
I just have the good results and the experiences with working with the bubble I know already, but not with the new ones. And I want to gain clarity on this, like what is the position there for me? And my question is, what are maybe questions I can ask myself? And also, would your offer be good for me on the point where I stand with this intention? Yes. Could you understand me?
Nice. Beautiful question. Thank you. Yes, there were a couple of moments where I missed a word or two, but I heard the most important stuff. You want to branch out audience that's been around you. Is that right?
I think so. I just got only the half, but I think you got me.
Cool. Okay. My internet was shaky for a moment, but should be good now. So one thing I would look for is, are there like what of the people that you've worked with from your bubble, what are the ones that are the most similar to who you want to work with? Because I imagine there's going to be like maybe like a small, but still some overlap. It's probably not going to be like this. It's going to be like, it's different worlds, but there will be some people who maybe are able to represent both. So that would definitely be a starting point. I would also not underestimate that some people in your audience might actually totally be able to afford a different offer. So when I went into this business coaching and I talked to my mentor, and I was like, no one's gonna follow me here because they're used to something else, and she was like, nah, I don't think that's the case, and is actually true. Like even if people don't buy, they might stay in your audience and like be really inspired because obviously you're stepping up, and so that can really call them up as well. And if they're not ready now, they might at some point. So what I would not kind of assume is that you're starting from zero, because you're really not.
Yes.
See if there's anything else. Yeah, so obviously any touch points that you have with this new target audience, even if they're not clients at all, I think that's going to be super useful. Just speaking to them, like, can be friends, acquaintances, connections that you have. Like, this is where stuff around market research would come in, because that's really helpful. Even if you know that this particular person is not going to be your client, um, just learning their language is going to be really helpful. And maybe potentially um, checking if there's something that you need to adapt in your like how you show up, so that they can trust you. Because there's this thing that I see, like I hear this from a lot of people, like, they're like the biggest hippies themselves, and they like, I work with CEOs. I want to work like with the really big people. And I had this thing as well. And what I tell them is like, why should they work with you? Like, what's the credibility that you have from their perspective? Like, I get it that you think that you could help them, but they need to think that you can help them. And so I think that's an important thing. I mean, I don't know exactly what kind of audience you're talking about, but
Yeah, me neither. No.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's a good
So
hint, like to ask myself, what are the people I already worked with that are like the kind of
mm,
people that could be overlapping with them, or yeah, that I
yes,
also have the most fun by working with,
yes,
and who got the maybe best results from working with me. And
exactly.
yeah, but there's always this, I noticed I have like a blockage, or like a, yeah, like when I think about the people I worked with, and then ask myself, okay, are there people with much money that want this? I don't know, because
Mhm.
that's not totally my
Yeah,
bubble. I just know like a few, and yeah, it's hard to imagine. But yeah, this market research is a good hint for that.
yeah.
Yes.
And if your current audience would be able to afford higher prices, would you still want to work with them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah, I think if you position your offer well, I think you will have people in your audience who you're surprised
Mhm.
that they're coming along as well. So,
Yeah.
because I remember some time ago I had this thing of like, oh, I need to like completely change my audience because my
Mhm.
current audience cannot afford the direction
Mhm.
I want to move into.
Mhm.
And for
Mhm.
me, it was around like the vulnerability of showing up with, the like a different level of offer to my current audience, and worrying like they're gonna, have all these judgments and so on. So
Mhm.
my sense is it would be like a mix of, yeah, you're opening up to a new audience, but you're also preparing some percentage of your current audience along with you.
Mhm. Yes. I feel this opportunity totally, and I, yeah,
Mm,
feels like the next step. But there's also something calling me to, like, yeah, opening up to another bubble, and because there's also
mhm,
something in me that wants to, like, um also being able to give my work for free, like for example for
mhm,
um yeah, Jugendliche, youngsters, yeah, yeah, so like have a
mhm.
more diverse span. Yes.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and I think like from my sense, we can chat in another place further. But from my sense, yeah, I think this program, I think that would definitely fulfill this.
Hey, thank you. And
Mm.
oh yeah, what a pity that you weren't that fluid as you actually are in my view, but yeah.
What do
Okay,
you
thank
mean?
you very much.
All right. Cool. Well, let's wrap it up here. Thank you so much for those staying around. If you have any questions, if you want to share anything with me from the masterclass, like any insights, feel free to drop me a message. I'd love to be in touch. Also, if you have any questions about this offer, can you send me a message and we can chat. And yeah, I'm wishing you a fantastic implementation. And if you have any wins you want to share with me at some point, please do. And yeah, sending you much love. Have a lovely, how'd you call this in English? 21st of June. Days are becoming shorter now. Hope you're celebrating in some way. And yeah, I'll see you again soon. Ciao, ciao.